Dude, it sucks here. Like, when we first moved out here, when I was probably like 16 or so, this was the sticks. Like, we're right on the edge of like the Everglades and stuff. And now it is, and it used to be like normal middle class people. Now it is the richest, shuttiest assholes you have ever seen in your life. Every other car is a Tesla. It's rich New Yorkers and Midwesterners wearing American flag t-shirts. It is terrible. And I am deeply angry at the rest of the country that you all have sent these horrible people down here and ruined my state.
Look, don't get mad at me for that one, because if anything, we're taking some of the pressure off with rebounders.
But also, like, you all wanted this. This is a sustained campaign from Florida to attract exactly this kind of person. You have no one to blame but yourself, sir.
It's true.
No.
And also possibly all of New York, but I'll give you that one.
Yeah. So it was better when it was rich Manhattanites coming to Palm Beach County, because they made it more liberal.
The sons of Joe Torre, I understand.
Yes. At some point, the disease from Southwest Florida, like Naples and Fort Myers and those areas, and Central Florida, which is where all the Midwesterners traditionally live, at some point that disease began to spread to the Southeast. And we also traded all like the Manhattan New Yorkers for like the greasiest bridge and tunnel trash in the tri-state area you can imagine. Like it is all Jeremy Shockey guys. These people should all be wearing wife beaters and sitting on their stoops and yelling about Puerto Ricans and stuff.
There was a time when that Jeremy Shockey jersey was definitely the next best thing to a red baseball cap is today. Like, it was, if you saw somebody wearing a Jeremy Shockey Giants jersey, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, all right.
I love that still
Staten
works
Island
too.
Nazi. Gotcha.
Yeah, he's been out of the league for what, like 15 years, but if you say Shockey jersey, everyone immediately knows what kind of chud you mean.
Yes, very, very specific type of guy. You absolutely worked for Merrill Lynch at some point. You are fired up to vote for Curtis Sliwa every 4 years, and you now live in Florida. Very specific type of guy. This is Normal Men, a podcast from four men who are clinging desperately to normalcy in an era when that's asking a bit too much. I'm George in Charlotte.
In D.C., I'm Proctor Malone.
In Outer Florida, I'm Lowtax Speedrun Enjoyer.
And I'm Ed in Boston.
We're firing people for not mocking Charlie Kirk now, apparently.
Yeah, it's just so hard to understand what exactly the issue was if all you know is the quote from the show. It's from what Jimmy Kimmel said on his show. It's bewildering. It's just like, I don't, how did this happen?
I mean, he's a deranged lib. He clearly was encoding things in his eye blinks. That's all we've got now, right? He is not sufficiently hagiographic. I don't know.
It's a good word.
That's a $2 word. That's the one for today. But like, yeah, if you look at what he said, and I don't know if anyone has it pulled up, but it's the most vanilla thing. I mean, it's a Jimmy Kimmel quote.
I got the quote right here. The MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. Kimmel then showed a clip of Trump meeting with the press. He was asked how he was holding up, and Trump responded that he was fine, and then he started rambling about the construction of the White House ballroom. Kimmel then said, "This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he calls a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish."
Show me the lie. Show me the lie at any point there.
I will say I hate that Trump is funny. It makes me so mad.
It's the worst thing about this presidency, honestly.
You can take some comfort in that he doesn't realize it anymore.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it also wasn't disrespectful to Charlie Kirk. It was disrespectful to Trump. But there's no comment there on Charlie Kirk.
It's certainly no comment justifying anything or arguing that Kirk's killer did the right thing or didn't do something wrong or something like. I mean, he clearly said it was a murder. He clearly, come on, like what are we doing?
The weirdest thing to me was just the way that this was immediately characterized as something it wasn't. And I don't even necessarily mean like, oh, he's slandering Charlie Kirk, because the thing that I saw people jump on originally was, and it does kind of tie into last week, where we didn't really have a motive for the shooter last week, and this week it seems much weirder than it was previously.
Should we just outline that so folks know where we're coming from here? Yeah, so basically and I'm going to give a high level, so if I get a detail or something wrong here, jump on me for this, because I know you love doing that, buddy. Basically, it doesn't look like he was as much of a groyper or a groyper at all, a sort of a Nazi nihilist right-winger, as was originally sort of indicated by some of the facts that we got early. It looks more like he was a much more, I don't want to say moderate politics because he assassinated someone, but he was outraged at Charlie Kirk and picked up a gun and shot him. And it doesn't look like now that it was internet poisoned, guy spends too much time on 4chan and decides to shoot somebody for the lulz. It was something different. And
he was defending his girlfriend, wasn't he?
We don't necessarily know that. Like, there's some suggestions there, but like it is at least in some ways incoherent.
Yeah. What we can say though that I emphasized last week, and that it remains true, is this is someone that came out of the right wing in terms of family history, cultural milieu, experience with guns, experience ideologically up until very recently. This really was the right eating itself in that sense. In terms of these specific ideological motivations, it looks different than that.
Right. And kind of what Kimmel was getting jumped on for at first was that, no, this kid was not a groyper, right? Like George's point that he is of a right-wing environment is fair, but I also am from a right-wing environment and I've never shot anyone.
Yeah, but were you more likely to?
That's a very good question. I hope God doesn't play dice.
Yeah, let's not test that one out.
but like then it absolutely just transformed into this insufficient amount of ass kissing. And it's hard to tell how much of that was Charlie Kirk and how much of that was Trump and how much of it was just this guy has said lib-coded things in the past and we can jump on him for it now. Because you might have noticed, and I'm sure Proctor has chapter and verse on broadcast TV, but like the immediate response was, now let's go after Seth Meyers or whoever it was, the other late night guys.
Yeah. I mean, Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon are the only two late night hosts left standing.
Oh, no, please. Please don't take Jimmy Fallon from me. I would be so owned if you did that.
Speaking of which, the single best introduction to Blue Sky of any high-profile person that's attempted to post on the internet. He jumps in, like he literally posts this jumping in, like stupid. He had a phone on his forehead with like a picture of blue sky on it.
It was a Nintendo Switch. He was. It was the day the Legend of Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom, came out, and his character is about to jump off a cliff or something, and he posts it to Blue Sky, and then everybody yelled at him over the writer's strike.
Yeah, like thousands of replies screaming at him over the writer's strike and how he didn't support his staff during the writer's strike.
Usually coming to Blue Sky with a Legend of Zelda based offering is a good way to intro yourself.
Agreed. Yes.
He read the room. The room just wanted to eat him.
Yeah. So anyhow, Fallon, he can take Fallon. Whatever. Kimmel, well,
there's a paper trail going back months, maybe years of Trump disliking Jimmy Kimmel for a variety of
imagine
reasons.
why.
And Jimmy Kimmel doesn't like Trump. I mean, I don't think that's a secret. Kimmel, former host of The Man Show, which had a segment that was entirely girls in bikinis jumping on trampolines, has somehow become a lion of liberalism in 2025, which, you know, I think that's great. Honestly, I think that's fantastic that there has been evolution there, and, you know, maybe Jimmy Kimmel was never as bad as he looked like from a very narrow slice. And
look, if we were going to have to take one of the Man Show guys on our side, I'm glad it was Kimmel and not Adam Carolla.
oh my God, yes. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Rogan replaced him on the Man Show, so we got a trifecta there.
I didn't know that was a real show until I was like 25. Because I just never, it never entered my light code when it existed.
I think it would have been canceled for like 5 years by the time you were 25, right? Or maybe even 10.
A lot more than that. Like, it was canceled before I graduated high school.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, yeah.
And like, I don't know, I just never saw it. And then later I saw like references to it. It's like, wait, that's real? And it has
absolutely real.
It has Adam Carolla on it, because I didn't know who Jimmy Kimmel was because I'm on the internet. And like, how did we get here?
Jimmy Kimmel was the guy from Win Ben Stein's Money. That was the
Yes.
Oh,
that was
that's
the cultural
right,
touchstone
he
there.
was.
Yep.
Oh, I don't like that.
I mean, the whole Man Show thing had this vaguely hallucinatory vibe. You weren't totally sure if it was a show that really existed or not. It was like Will Ferrell's Bitch Hunter from 39.
It's sort of like that Barstool sports show that's on Fox now. Same vibes.
Oh, why did you don't remind me they exist?
They're literally setting records for how low their viewership is. They get like 8,000 people.
Good, because
Is
I
that
have
the
a
Clay
modest
Travis
proposal
show?
about Dave Portnoy.
No, it's Portnoy's on, I think, one day a week, and then it's like ESPN's First Take competition on FS1 or whatever. And yeah, nobody's watching it. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody. I think if you just did a random sampling of TVs in the country, like people just flipping through the channels, you'd probably get 5,000 people watching FS1 at any given time. So the fact that you're not...
Yeah, like, how many bars is that?
Well, it's a morning show, so, you know.
How many desperate bars is that?
Anyhow, I do think the Kimmel stuff is interesting, too, because there's a lot of mess behind the scenes of the media industry that it's sort of exposed. And there's a few different roads we can go down with this. One of them, for instance, is someone, presumably Kimmel, leaked this week that one of the reasons he's negotiating with ABC or one of the things he's thinking about in negotiations with ABC is making sure his staff doesn't take a huge hit from the show being not in production for a while. Whether that makes him a saint or not, I'll let you make your decisions there. But that's one angle, right? Like, these are very large labor intensive productions to put on. They're not just hitting the play button somewhere. So that's kind of interesting. I think that, and we saw with the writer's strike, that labor in scripted media and unscripted media has more power than I think historically we would have thought, and they were able to exercise it with the writer's strike.
I think going after the late night hosts to some extent is a subset of the ongoing conservative thought that there's a cathedral somewhere that, you know, you can rip out the wiring and shut it down, and that will end liberalism. And they think that vaguely left-leaning late night hosts are a load-bearing pillar of that building.
That's so weird, because like, they don't even watch Fox News. I mean, yes, Fox pulls numbers, but like,
let me tell you, man, I watched a couple in their 50s watch literally 4 hours straight of Fox News this afternoon on the plane.
oh no,
It was wild. Married couple next to me in the two seats next to me, and just dialed in. Actually, okay, to be fair, let me be fair to the wife. She was occasionally doing a crossword on her phone and then flipping back, but other than that, and he was locked in the whole time. Flew from California to North Carolina, and intent. Yeah, I mean, they're out there, man. You would not know it looking at these people either.
Sure, there are some. I'm not saying that there are not, because like, Fox News obviously does numbers, but like, Most of this stuff is coming from other sources. You would think there would be, think there is theory of mind is obviously a big ask. They're not primarily getting their drip from Fox News as like a cultural subsegment. They're getting it from other places. Why do they still think that things like MSNBC matter to anyone else?
To some extent, it's an open question how much the last few drips and drabs of the monoculture matter for this kind of thing. Whether or not people like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel are actually agenda setting for what we talk about or how we talk about it. These shows generally are dying. There's an economic backdrop to all of this as well, which is that the age of late night, if not over, is coming to a close, even independent of this.
I mean, the age of broadcast television in general, let's go all the way there, because these businesses are the classic example of what's called a melting ice cube. Just because the ice cube's melting doesn't mean it's not cold. It's just not going to be cold forever, and it's getting steadily less cold over time. So like there are real economic interests there. You're able to generate income from these assets, but not as much as you once were. It's shrinking, and it's going to go to zero eventually.
Last one out the door, turn on the NCIS reruns.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And either they're going to have to figure out how to adapt their business model and become, a content studio that serves through channels other than broadcast, or they're done.
Oh yeah, let's put NBC under Netflix. It'll go great.
Yeah, and that's, but CBS is owned by a conglomerate that has a movie production studio. ABC is owned by a conglomerate that has a movie production studio. NBC is owned by, it's all that, and that's the way they've gone. But like at a certain point, it's not going to matter. I also think it's really interesting that, so Disney is the parent company of ABC, who are the ones that pushed Kimmel off the air for the time being. Whether he comes back or not is an open question at this hour on September 21st. But their relationship with the actual stations that broadcast their content is what appears to have driven this position, or driven this outcome, based on the reporting that's been done so far and public statements from a couple of companies involved. So to back up, a broadcast TV network has agreements with what are called affiliates, basically the person that owns the right to broadcast in a given area at a certain frequency. If I'm the person that owns that slice of frequency in Charlotte, for instance, I can go out and make a contract with CBS, with ABC, with whoever, Fox, NBC, whatever. My business is separate from their business. They're selling me content and I'm broadcasting it. It's a little bit. It's not necessarily as
there can be some push and pull, but
there's some push and pull. But basically, we're part of a supply chain, but we're separate parts of that supply chain. Right. This revolt by this Kimmel move came after a revolt by at least 2 and possibly more groups or individual affiliates. So affiliates said, we don't want to broadcast this, and ABC executives panicked and said, okay, we'll pull it everywhere. We know at least 2 of those groups. One is a group called Sinclair. One is a group called Nexstar. They're both publicly traded. You can watch their stocks tick along if you want. Sinclair is the largest owner of TV affiliates in the country. Nexstar is one of the larger companies in the space as well. Nexstar owns like 28 ABC stations, and they're buying a company called Tegna, who own another 13 ABC stations. This is where we get into the motivations here. For Nexstar to buy Tegna, they need a waiver from the FCC saying you can go over this cap we have on the number of affiliates that any one company can control. Basically, the FCC doesn't want one company owning all the broadcast TV rights in the country. They want a diverse media ecosystem. Not ideologically necessarily, just for all intents and purposes diverse, right? You don't want concentration. It's like how you don't want one airline servicing a single airport. Same logic.
And the bar on mergers and acquisitions like this is much lower for the FCC than it would be for a merger and acquisition that the Department of Justice is reviewing or the Federal Trade Commission, I believe.
Yes, and the reason for that is that in order to have the license to broadcast over the air, which is sort of like a public commons, they are agreeing to a certain form of regulation. Whereas a company that's just sort of operating in, I don't know, some random industry isn't relying on that same public airspace in the same way. So they don't, this is all New Deal, technocratic, managing how concentrated the economy gets stuff. It's been this way for basically a century. Not a century, maybe, I think
long enough.
A little bit less than that. Long that. More than half a century. Okay. So presumably what happened here is Nexstar said, we're not going to run this because if we run this, then we won't get our merger approved because we're asking for special dispensation. Sinclair, who are also interested in acquiring as many stations as it can, said, Nexstar's got a good idea. We're going to do the same thing. And ABC panicked. And instead of saying, well, hold on, you guys are like a tiny slice of our business. First of all, the affiliates revolting it's kind of ambiguous as to Disney's bottom line. It probably wouldn't be good, but it's not a thing where it's like, oh, that immediately hits their earnings. It's more like, okay, that creates complications for them and negotiations or something like that, but it's not, okay, they're instantly losing a lot of money. Instead of thinking about Disney as a whole, where you've got the entire brand of ABC, the entire brand of ESPN, the entire brand of Disney, all of the people that go on parks and cruises and subscribe to Hulu and subscribe to ESPN Plus or ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, whatever. They just thought about it in terms of this very small and, again, melting ice cube shrinking part of their business, where they're like, well, we don't want it. We can't get into a big thing with the FCC and with our affiliates. So like, let's just go with them. And the way consumers are reading this is, well, my Hulu live TV subscription is with Disney and they're the ones that control this. And I don't like this. So I'm canceling that.
Disney Plus gone.
Yeah. I canceled. I canceled today.
Want their Jimmy.
I canceled today Disney, a customer relationship with Disney that worked out to almost $1,200 a year. Gone. That $1,200 a year, like they're not going to make that up somehow in broadcast TV. That ain't going to be how it works, right? And I just think it's such a great example of American elites being so cowardly and short-sighted that they are completely shooting themselves in the foot. They are completely, there is an utter lack of ambition and desire to hold power in the elite tiers of this country. And one of the big examples of that is extreme risk aversion. Disney said, okay, we're going to be really risk averse. We don't want to piss off Trump. And now it's going to feed back into their business in other ways that they have much less control over and have no legal grounds to stop, right? They could have paid lawyers enough to just stiff arm this guy. That would have been the outcome. And instead, so good job, guys.
I think the story feeds into a couple of kind of ongoing themes that we've touched on at various points. One hobby horse that I keep trotting out is that a lot of these institutions that are making concessions that are in some respect bending the knee to Trump think that they're making a smaller concession than Trump thinks they're making. And it's not clear to me yet who's right in each of these instances. So, like we look at the law firms that promised a bunch of pro bono work to Trump, that bent the knee to Trump, that are doing things that are unquestionably improper, essentially to get the administration off their back, to stop the administration from doing things that are illegal, but would be a gigantic pain in the butt to defend themselves against. There's not a lot of evidence that they've had to pay up on that yet. Now, they've taken a PR hit for sure that is not good for them, but it's not clear that we're in the worst case scenario for them where they've actually sold their soul to the devil. It's just that they've made this public gesture of appeasement, of obeisance, that is going to follow them around for a long time, that they can't meaningfully push back on the thought that they'd given up less than Trump thinks they gave up, because that would completely defeat the point. That would absolutely draw Trump's attention right back to them, and put them in probably a worse situation than they were originally. And for those of us who are outside the room, we don't really have a good sense of either the thought process in full that went into that decision to surrender or the actual extent of the surrender.
But also, does it matter? Right? Like, these are being used to knock over the next domino.
I think it matters a lot whether or not these guys think that they are resisting Trump, but are publicly doing things that are not resisting Trump, or whether they're all in. They're on Trump's side now. I think that matters a great deal.
Oh,
You're right that it's still weaponizable against the next domino. And that's one reason why I think, frankly, we all, and I don't like saying this, but I think, frankly, we all owe a big debt to Harvard, who's been sitting there.
Absolutely hate saying that.
Who's been sitting there.
Harvard's over here knocking on my window going, how you like them apples?
No, I'm sorry. You do not, under any circumstances, got to hand it to Harvard.
I live here, and I endorse that message.
I hate handing it to Harvard. I'm not doing this because I like Harvard. I hate this, but you really...
They're sitting there clogging up the pipeline. I mean, they are... Harvard is acting as just a gigantic substance of your choice right in the middle of that sewage pipe that is preventing anything else from getting through.
Never mind, I'm not even going to go there.
And is meaningfully protecting other parts of higher ed, because whatever the slice
Four
of
DOJ guys left,
whatever
we
the
are
piece of
fully out of
tattered
lawyers at this point.
admin capacity that Trump has going after that sector is stuck dealing with Harvard, and they can't move on to whoever the next target on the list would be. In the case of Disney, the reporting said that there was a fair amount of internal conversation about what to do about Jimmy Kimmel.
Yep.
We can think of this as being maybe a pro-Kimmelite faction and an anti-Kimmelite faction within the mouse.
Don't ever say that again.
I think that Disney does not think that their initial decision, at least, was a maximal decision against Kimmel. I think that they intended to suspend him. I don't think they intended to fire him. We don't know for sure if that's true. We're not going to know for sure if that's true for a while, maybe not ever. But that's my speculation, is that they thought they were charting some kind of a middle path here.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. Middle paths just don't work, though.
And yeah, that's right. The problem is any concession is an invitation.
Right. Yeah. These are not clever people. Like they're the dope fish, swim hungry, right? Like they see food, they eat it. And like that's all we've got. And they're just, the second you roll over, they're just going to kill you. Like Disney's going to get something worse now because it has come out that there have been factions. They're going to just get kicked in the pills. It's not going to get better for them.
It's not going to get better for them.
Even if we all stopped canceling Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think with
Disney Plus. Thank you.
I think with Disney there is a path out for them that is harm mitigating at this point, but you're right, they're going to suffer a lot more now than they would have if they had said kick rocks to start with. That was the best possible thing they could have done. You can't stop the eye of Sauron from looking at you, but you can control what happens when its gaze rests on you. And the only way out is to flip the bird and just dig in as hard as you can. And for some individuals and groups and, whatever, they don't have the material capacity to fight the legal fight that's involved with that. And if this was a small business in some, podunk town or whatever, I wouldn't be saying this. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the mouse here, right? This is one of the best lawyered entities on the planet.
And best lobbyists.
And unbelievable lobbyists with enormous political clout within the MAGA coalition because of the happenstance of geography, right? They're one of the biggest employers in Florida.
The thing that blows my mind, though, is that, like, Sinclair and Sinclair's just a bunch of crazies, too, right? Like, they're in, as you said, George, they're in a shrinking market, right? Like, everyone has been seeing for the last 10 years, your local television news is being told what to say. It's always Sinclair. Right?
Yeah. Sinclair is explicitly ideological. They are the Hobby Lobby of local affiliate owners.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, they're chuds.
100%. It remains to be seen how big the cancellation stuff becomes. That is still unclear. There was a thing on Blue Sky this past week saying Disney's losing billions from people canceling the subscription. The stock was down like 1.6% on Friday, if I remember correctly. Like, it's just completely irrelevant. Anything less than a half standard deviation move is not worth your time.
And to be fair, it's not wrong that 1.5% is billions. but it is wrong.
Exactly, because that's how market cap works. Like if you're worth $100 billion and you got on 1%, that's $1 billion. Like it, Disney lost market cap. Losing 2 to 3% on your stock price is not changing any corporate decision maker's mind for any reason on anything. It's completely irrelevant. It's totally in the background. When you start talking 5, 10, 15, 20%, we're in a different world here, as Target executives have sort of found out.
Now, that said, when you cancel your Disney Plus subscription, when you cancel your lavish Disney World wedding, when you as a Disney adult go and tell your Disney adult followers to Disney adult no more, what you're doing there is you're handing ammunition to the pro Kimmelite faction.
Yes.
Disney adults, you are our strongest soldiers right now.
They're out there reading theory.
When I say that it doesn't seem to have had a huge effect so far, I don't say that to say, oh, don't cancel your Disney stuff. No, you should absolutely do that if that's what you feel you need to do. By all means, I did today, like fully endorse. What I'm saying is don't let the stock market dictate how you evaluate the efficacy of your political actions in the span of a few days, right? If, let's say, 100,000 people canceled a package as similar to the one I canceled today. That is a significant enough impact to Disney's bottom line that they're going to have to guide on it. They're going to have to say, this is a thing that happened that was material and will be a risk going forward. We're going to hear about it. We'll hear about it in early November.
And that's when you get to do the sicko's face. It's not yet. You just have to be patient. You cannot have, this is not an immediate gratification zone.
Yes. And I will say too, if you canceled any Disney product, whatever, if they come out, for instance, tomorrow and say, Kimmel's back, we investigated, nothing he said was problematic, whatever, then you say, great, I'm resubscribing, or I'm going back to Disney World, or whatever it is you people are buying on whatever e-commerce site branded with whatever.
What contempt.
I mean, who am I kidding? I've got a daughter who's almost 3 years old. Like, I buy Disney stuff too, but come on.
Please don't get the Disney adults mad at us. I mean, I can take the Secret Service. I can't handle that smoke.
Yeah. The point is, I'm going to nuke New England. The point is, if you hit someone with the stick, you got to give them the carrot when they start turning their behavior around. Mm-hmm. And it remains to be seen. It's not clear that Disney will actually turn their behavior around. They might not, in which case, that's it. But if they do, then resubscribe. Let your kids watch Disney movies again. Throw some Bluey on. Go to Disney World. I would never go to Disney World because it's in Florida, but that's a separate question.
I am in Florida. You're right. Don't go to Disney World.
We believe very strongly in carrots and sticks here at Normal Men because we try to understand how people respond to incentives. That's a thing I think we're all pretty serious about.
Oh, I hate that phrase. An incentive is something that makes people respond. So when you say people respond to incentives, it's tautological. You're saying people respond to things that people respond to.
Jesus Christ, one sec.
So okay. I'm out here trying to get George in trouble with Disney, and he's out here getting himself in trouble with fucking dictionaries.
Look, hey, don't bring me into this. I didn't use that phrase.
No, I know. I'm saying you're in trouble with Disney people.
Okay, we care a lot about how to incentivize people. Is that better?
That's perfect.
Sure.
Okay. We care a lot about how to properly incentivize people, and both positive incentives and negative incentives are useful. One of the things that we have criticized the Trump administration for in the past is that they are all stick, no carrot. It's all negative incentives. There are no positive incentives. There's a story in the news this week that makes it clear that at least once in a while, they do know how to give positive incentives, or at least how to provide the ability for someone to go out and find positive incentives. We have a story that summer of last year, Tom Homan, who is the immigration czar, I think is the closest we can get to his official title. He's not Senate confirmed because he would not be Senate confirmed, but he is running the ICE snatch squads for the Trump administration. Sometime last summer, the FBI set up a sting where people posing as contractors hoping to win favor with a possible future Trump administration handed Tom Homan $50,000 in a Cava bag. Cava makes delicious Mediterranean food.
Let's not get carried away. It's adequate.
Cava makes mid-plus Mediterranean food.
There we go. Thank you.
Somewhat inexplicably failed to mention that to either the media and failed to prosecute on it until Trump had been elected and put into office, at which point Trump's DOJ killed the investigation, despite the fact they had Tom Homan on tape taking $50,000 of cash in a Cava bag.
This is neither here nor there to whatever the hell, but just to be clear, this investigation started as a counterintelligence operation. In other words, like it was an operation designed to ferret out foreign influence in the United States, and it ended up with them getting this guy red-handed receiving cash in a Cava bag. So presumably there was some fire there on the foreign influence side of things and the counterintelligence side of things. And who knows what happened there, because they canned the part of the investigation they caught someone red-handed with. So, whoops.
There is a legal reason that they didn't drop the boom earlier, which is that they couldn't get him on bribery charges until he actually had an official position, and because the federal bribery statute requires that you have an official position. But still, this seems like something that could have been brought to our attention, before the election when it might have mattered.
Can we address Ed having put on sunglasses here?
My eyes hurt, dude. I just had surgery. It has nothing to do with the fact that this is a discussion of serious intelligence operations.
If Ed offers you either a red or a blue pill in this conversation, run.
I guess we're going to be using smooth jazz for the rest of the musical transitions.
Challenge accepted. I have an audio subscription.
The carrots on the immigration side too is interesting in the context of the announcement around the H-1B visa $100,000 thing. So last was Saturday morning, I believe. I was on the West Coast for this, so I think it was maybe Saturday early afternoon on the East Coast. The Trump administration dropped a presidential memorandum saying that anybody that wasn't inside the country with an H-1B visa as of midnight on Sunday would need to pay $100,000 to come back into the country. So if you had an H-1B visa and were overseas somewhere and you came back to the U.S. on Monday morning, the letter of the memorandum would imply that, yeah, you have to pay $100,000 right now. And any future H-1B applicants would as well. That's nuts. The White House afterwards tried to spin this and say, oh, no, we didn't mean that. But like, it's what's in the memorandum, guys. Like, that's what it says.
In fairness, they can't read.
Yeah. And they're completely out of lawyers. That's the other issue.
I mean, Microsoft sent out a memo to its employees and said, hey, if you're overseas,
get back now.
You need to get your ass back in the country now.
Yeah, get back now, or don't try to come back immediately, because we're still figuring out. And I mean, I think that was the right thing for Microsoft to do. I don't think they had a 100%. Choice there.
No, that was very rational.
Yeah. But that's another example too, right? Where the whole thing is just pay us and we have absolute discretion over whether you need to do that or not, and whether we enforce it or not, and whatever. Like it's all, we get to set the rules with who gets hit with the stick, and there will be no carrots.
Right. And also we get to change the rules at any time through whatever process we feel like. To be clear, they can't do this. Like it is unambiguous under the law.
The law max is at $4,500.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what the law says. And there's some stuff in there about how you can use this to recoup, expenses, but none of that gets anywhere close to.
Yeah, but also we have black letter U.S. law right now saying TikTok's not allowed to operate, and the Supreme Court even sided with that 9-0. This was not the Supreme Court making stuff up, and TikTok's still talking and ticking. So
don't ever say that again.
Yeah, I don't care. I just
look at how proud he was of that too.
I liked it, George.
Honestly, the most grim part of this, and I'm sorry, but we're going to have to crack open the lore. This means somebody is reading Eigenrobot in the White House.
Yeah. Oh, reading. Someone's printing out his posts, and you know what? I'm not gonna. It involves a tissue box.
I was just going to say taping to the bathroom wall, but you know.
No, I went a lot further.
You weren't.
I am really online, and I have no earthly idea who Eigenrobot is. Can one of y'all give me a high level on this?
He is one of... He's... Propter. Help me out. Dad! I can only say he's one of the worst people online, but that does not narrow this down very much.
Eigenrobot is one of the stalwarts of the right-wing political fascialigned side of Teapot. Teapot is an initialism for this part of Twitter. They are kind of the post-rationalists. Think of them as being kind of a bunch of mostly people who work in tech who aren't...
We don't own them.
who are not really aligned politically, either left or right natively. They are formally committed to open debate on a bunch of things, which functionally means that they wind up having open debate all the way into the sewer, and they're over in Fashland a lot of the time.
It means they want to talk about IQ all the time, and
there's definitely some skull manipulation going on there, right? Like some skull measurement is absolutely in the cards. But like Eigenrobot literally has a tweet saying that they should charge $100,000 for H-1B visas, and after this came out, even he had a moment of clarity.
Right.
It's not a good sign when these are the people that the White House is getting their thought leadering from.
When even the Nazi guy is going, no, it was a shit post, you idiots.
I just, at some point, this is true internationally as well. It's been true. It's true in the U.S. inside our domestic politics, and it's true internationally. At some point, they're going to run up against somebody who just refuses to cave because the incentives are such that the downside is way bigger from caving than it is from standing up. Which, given the existential powers of the American presidency, is not just going to happen anytime. Like, there's going to have to be a specific context. It's the same internationally. There's going to have to be some existential international domestic threat to a leader that forces them to say, no, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. We're done. We're kicking the U.S. military bases off our territory, or we're freezing all trade with the United States, or, something like this, something like really... They're going to keep escalating until they hit that point. It's inevitable. There's nothing that is going to stop it. And the question is just when and how bad. And the same thing applies domestically too. The same thing does. And I well, maybe not. Convince me otherwise, Proctor.
I'm just going to throw this out here, but when and who, India is also run by a personalist authoritarian. India is extremely pissed at us about other things. And India is, I believe, the number one source country for H-1Bs. So... if they're not number one, they're number two. So if I had to pick a crisis point for this, it would be Modi in the next major summit.
I gotta say, Hindutva versus MAGA would be pretty entertaining.
From a distance, like space.
Yes, from a distance. I was going to say, these guys do fold when they're confronted. I mean, think about Pritzker with Trump threatening to go into Chicago. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Pritzker told him to shit in his hand, and they backed down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And Trump said, okay, we're going to go into New Orleans very strongly then.
Yeah.
These guys will back down.
Yeah. And they don't have the capacity to be everywhere all at once, and they don't have the capacity to marshal the kind of authoritarian control that they would want over one city, let alone 40 of them. They like saying no is going to become the less risky option at some point here for domestic agents is the term of art I will use, not AI agents, but institutions, corporations, individuals, whatever,
honestly,
other elected officials. And
it's already been at that point. It's just they're still kind of in the dinner circuit mindset.
They're not. It's not yet though, right? Like, and Disney is the perfect example, right? Like, they didn't think that the downside to saying piss off was a lot lower than the downside to saying, oh, yes, sir.
Right. But like take Harvard as I'm sorry, good example. Like,
Harvard is the best example of an institution that has actually done this calculation properly. I agree with that.
But essentially 100%. What I mean is that, like, this is, they're late to the party because of the dinner circuit, right? Like, they would have been better off saying no up front, because this administration's popularity has been rancid since day one, right?
Yeah, and it's getting worse,
Yeah, and like, they just, and hopefully Disney is a good example of, oh, we learn our lessons. You know, they're responsive to stimuli. I don't know. The Harvard thing, they were not the first ones they went after. And I don't think the results, they went after Columbia.
I mean, they kind of went after him at the same time. It's
true, but like Columbia would have reaped the rewards of telling them to piss off just as much as Harvard is.
Yep.
Yes,
because it's not like the case was any better. And so that's what I mean when I say that, like, they are late to this party. They have drastically misunderstood, you know, like, public perception, the actual institutional capacity of any of these initiatives. This is a global scale self-own on multiple levels now.
It's worth saying, just on the popularity thing, Trump is underwater with every major demographic group and the state of Texas. A Republican president is underwater in Texas.
In his first year.
Not even in his first year. I mean, he hasn't even been in the job second time around, admittedly, for 9 months.
True.
And the effects of, the most direct effects of his attacks on healthcare and inflation are still very far from being felt in their strongest ituration, right? Like, prices have gone up because of tariffs, but a lot of it's happened because of margins being eaten, and that will not continue forever. It's cushioning a bit for now, but there's a lot further to go there. And the effects of labor withdrawal via the immigration policy on the cost of food is going to be dramatic. It's going to be bad, with beef already at record highs and yada, yada, yada. And, oh, by the way, their obsession with approving every possible data center project and AI out into the infinite horizon, they talk about this all the time. That's going to feed directly into electricity prices, and going to be a huge, obvious thing that's going to hit people. And they're taking away health insurance from like half the people that are covered by Medicaid in this country.
Okay, like, the healthcare thing is important, but I need to go back a step.
Yeah.
Are they about to lose the beef tallow, guys?
No, I think no. No, I think shake and steak crew are lost forever, honestly.
You can tell me comforting lies, George.
The good news is that Texas electricity prices are always very affordable, very rationally set. And not to mention you're worried about Trump's approval there, but the Texas Republicans have a candidate for the Senate next year who I think is almost unbeatable, and that is our good friend Ken Paxton.
That's the worst segue I've ever heard.
No, it's the best, but I need an update on Paxton Watch. The last I heard, his mistress was in the Daily Mail for something.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, people are dropping more oppo on Paxton. I'm a little skeptical at this point that, I mean, he's already taken 12 tranquilizer darts. At some point, you gotta think the tranquilizer darts aren't going to stop him. But like,
oh, you mean the Daily Mail broke the scandal of seeing a married Christian influencer?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
Daily-
she was in the Daily Mail, and I was like, I have follow-up questions.
Well, the story's in the Daily Mail. The headline, we're not going to get into details here, but the headline was Texas AG, that's Ken Paxton, is caught in shocking sex scandal as details of secret affair with married Christian influencer mom of 7 are exposed. We will put that in the show notes for you if you want to do all the reading. I wouldn't recommend it.
Don't do it.
Mom of 7, Jesus.
Can I just say at this point, I feel we've lost the right to describe any Paxton sex scandal as shocking. I mean,
That's fair.
The next one must be described as a middle-of-the-road sex scandal.
Entirely unsurprising latest sex scandal from
A
Ken Paxton.
vanilla, a missionary sex scandal, if you will.
I was going to go with below average, but if you want to declass the place like that.
Oh, Lord. So, how are we feeling on Texas? Like, I said his approvals are underwater in Texas. It's a poll. It's probably not a huge sample size. I don't know what the Economist methodology is for their tracker. It's, we don't want to get too carried away with doing a victory lap on that. But what do we think at this point? Because we now have a contested Democratic Party primary for Texas Senate, right?
yeah, James Tallarico is now into the Democratic primary, and he's got some excitement behind him. I think it's too early to handicap Texas because we've also had some decent polling for John Cornyn on the Republican side.
You mean decent primary polling?
Decent primary polling, yes.
Got it.
Yeah. At this point, anybody who's doing GE polling on Texas Senate is trying to spin the primary. They're not actually doing general election polling. What they're doing is they're trying to come up with a number for somebody to beat somebody else over the head with in the primary. We would rather face Paxton than Cornyn. I don't think that's controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Don't listen
to these general election polls, Texas Republicans. Cornyn is a globalist cuck, and you guys can beat him.
Whereas earlier this year, the primary polling was really dire for Cornyn. This has him closer to pulling even. Some of the recent numbers do. And so we can't be quite as confident at this point that it's going to be Paxton in the GE. If it's Cornyn in the GE, our road is harder. It's not impossible. I think we have several good candidates on the Democratic side. I think that it's going to take probably in the neighborhood of certainly D+6, probably more like D+9, for us to feel good about taking the Texas Senate seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, these numbers
the closest
are not great.
it got was 2018, and Beto lost by 2.6 percentage points statewide, which, I mean, I think that's kind of like a good mental model to use is like, okay, what's changed in Texas since 2018? What's that electorate going to look like 2018 to now? And what's the national value on, like what's the national spread like versus 2018? I think it's probably reasonable to expect a similar environment to 2018 at this point, given what we know, but I don't know, maybe not. I think you can make the case that the demographics of the 2024 coalition make it harder than it would be holding 2018 equal, right? Like losing Latino vote share in Texas is tough. Now, you can also make the case that those voters are going to now swing back.
Or even just
maybe
not vote.
Or not vote, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not. But I think all else equal, the demographics fall against you. Mm-hmm. And so where does that leave you, relative to a 2.6% spread last time around? To me, it's like 20%. Is that crazy? 30%?
Okay, so
at best,
the basic underlying dynamics here compared to 2018 are that Texas is browner than it was in 2018, but the brown is redder. So there are more voters of color in Texas than there used to be. And if we thought that the demographics in Texas would vote in 2026 the same way that they did in 2018, that would be very bullish for Dems. But over that same period, we've seen specifically Texas Latin voters move towards the Republican Party. The explanation for this is probably not monocausal. Spanish language media has something to do with it, certainly. My pet theory is that this is basically downstream, especially in Texas, of Trump pointing a gigantic money hose at the Rio Grande Valley through all that border enforcement. There were billions and billions of federal dollars that were going directly into the RGV. Hard not to notice that there's a whole bunch of money coming into your community, even if it's coming in for purposes like building the wall. And that matters to people. This is basic politics of materialism right here. That the Rio Grande Valley in particular is somewhere where Trump, I don't even think necessarily deliberately, or at least I don't think it started this way, actually did do some deliverism in terms of getting money to communities that don't have a lot of it. But obviously things have changed a little bit in terms of overall Trump stance and Trump priorities in terms of harassing brown people in the United States.
Oh, have they? I didn't know.
Now, one thing you might see is we haven't seen a whole lot of news about ICE raids in Texas, and that's because they haven't targeted Texas for ICE raids the same way they targeted other places. My guess is that they're probably not going to do that ahead of 2026 in a real and systematic way. You're not going to see what they did in Southern California, in San Antonio or in Houston. Could be wrong. These guys are stupid in lots of ways. Yeah. That said, these guys read the news too. They're broadly aware of what's happening, and that should scare them. So I haven't seen any polling that I think is especially reliable about which way we think Latin voters in Texas are likely to go in a 2026 GE, but it's shaping up to look like that's probably the ballgame one way or another. That if you get Latin vote splits that look like 2018, then I'm comfortable saying that we have at least a puncher's chance and possibly our favorites to take that Senate seat. And if they look more like they did in 2024, then we're probably not.
Just for the record, again, I'm using the Economist tracker. This is not the gold standard. It's just what I'm familiar with from last week's releases. So don't get mad at me if you're a polls nerd, or just politely say, this is why you should ignore it. Whatever. Underwater with Hispanics by looks like 30%.
Yeah, that's
the only demographic that there are two demographics that he's less popular with, under 30s and black voters. So that is not what he did on election day last time. And I think one of my things about the 2024 election, not to relitigate too much, but that a lot of the marginal voters in that election were hyper concerned about inflation. And there was only going to be so much the Democrats could have done to win those people. And that was sort of driving what swung a lot of the key states. And I think Latinos were ground zero for that. Extremely vulnerable to inflation because of their position on the income distribution. Now, really strong wage growth in recent years, but people have nominal anchors. And so they think about prices that they pay, not wages they receive. That said, I think nothing on inflation has gotten better materially since Trump was elected. And you could argue in some ways it's gotten worse. They're also getting hit with this cudgel of, if you speak Spanish in public, a federal agent will ask you to prove your citizenship to them immediately. Which, I don't know, man. Even if they're not doing that in Texas,
they have TikTok.
They certainly do.
That's a thing. Genuinely, I have trouble believing that the information environment is, it is obviously tilted. We should probably talk about TikTok next week. Sorry. But they have, you can't not see it. Even if you are getting your information just straight up from the Facebook news feed sludge, you can't not see this at this point.
So Proctor, what probability would you assign right now? George went 20%. What do you got?
Of us taking the Texas Senate seat? I think I'm a little more optimistic than that. I would say 30 to 35.
Now, some of this depends on if Paxton is the nominee, right?
Yeah. I'm averaging that between Paxton and Cornyn. Okay. So call it 15% for Cornyn and 35% for Paxton, if that makes sense.
None of the polls that I've seen for any of the Democrats look good against any of them, though. I think I'm more in Georgia's
against
ballpark.
Paxton or against Cornyn?
Either Paxton or Cornyn. They're down by 5 in the ones that I saw.
Let's dig in on the Texas micropolling on a different week, but I want to make two larger points and kind of in response to both what George and Ed said. Point the first about inflation. Yes, inflation is still a huge thing. The other thing that we sometimes fall into when we talk about inflation, particularly those of us who are economist or economist adjacent, is we usually look at core PCI, which is PCI excluding food and energy. Core PCI is generally a better, less noisy measure for inflation.
CPI or PCE? You said PCI.
Yeah. PCI. CPI. Excuse me.
Yes.
Words are hard.
Generally, looking at inflation X food and energy is less noisy, and it's a better measure because food and energy bounce around a lot. They're swingy. But if you're talking about the political impacts, it turns out people care a lot about inflation in food and inflation in energy. People care a lot about changes in gas prices, and people care a lot about changes in food prices. And gas prices that's whatever. I don't think they've been that bad, but food prices have been a problem, and food prices are looking like they're going to continue to be a problem inflation-wise. So our non-noisy measures of inflation may be underrating the extent to which it's going to have an impact at the ballot box, particularly for relatively low-income voters. The other thing I wanted to say is that Economist YouGov, that's the poll that George was referencing, they're traditionally lower on Trump approval than the other pollsters. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that they're harder on Trump's approval overall. But the more specific criticism I would make of this poll with regard to Texas is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a national Hispanic number rather than a Texas Hispanic number.
Yes. I should have said that. All the demographic stuff there was national, not Texas specific. They also gave a state by state breakdown, which they didn't get into crosstabs within the states because there's no way their sample is big enough to do that. Yeah.
Again, it doesn't mean they're wrong with regard to Texas, but I'm reluctant to translate national Hispanic approval to Texas Hispanic approval. There's been some disjoint in recent years. Also, like California Hispanics are nuclear pissed at Trump right now.
Yeah.
So,
I that's totally right. 100% agree with that. What I would say is that there's going to be some splash damage. You can only get so harsh on California Latinos before the Tejanos start saying whoa, what's going on over there? Right? We live in a national media environment. And and the networks that folks that are recent arrivals or have been in this country for longer than much of my family has been, have networks that span states. So yeah, I think that's fair. On the inflation stuff right now, the pace of inflation is not too crazy in terms of differences between food and energy. And I'll just throw a couple numbers at you here because I think it's kind of interesting. So starting with CPI for food. CPI for food's up 3.2% year over year right now. It's accelerated a bit from the lows earlier this year when it was up about 2%. 2% is typically what economists target for inflation in the United States. That's how the Federal Reserve thinks about it. So if food prices are up about 2%, that should be roughly the same amount as core CPI. Okay, all good. Energy prices are slightly lower. I guess latest reading was 0.4% year over year. So they're basically flat. Most of this is low oil prices. Oil prices in the mid 60s have been pretty stable for a while. So
yeah, heating oil up here is cheaper than it was any time in the last 12 months.
Yep, exactly. So you've seen some price relief there. However, within energy prices, electricity has reaccelerated. So electricity prices at their peak in August of 2022, which is sort of when broad inflation peaked in the post-COVID period, were up about call it 16% rounded year over year was the peak. They right now are up 6.2%, and they're only going higher. That's a one-way train. And there's two big reasons for this. Big reason number one, lots of the electrons in your local grid, the marginal price that's setting those is natural gas. It's a natural gas turbine somewhere, whether it's a peaker plant, which is basically a jet engine pointed in the sky, or a combined cycle plant, which is a jet engine pointed in the sky where they actually, or horizontal to the ground, and they capture the waste heat and run that through a steam cycle. So it's much more efficient. Those two forms of gas turbines are going to be what sort of provides the marginal electron at peak hours, and that's where the prices get set. And eventually that works its way back to you, the consumer. Those prices are right now dealing with a very large shortage of natural gas turbines, especially the combined cycle turbines. There are 3 companies that make them globally, and they're sold out for 4 or 5 years under their current production capacity. And the second thing is natural gas prices are going to keep going up because we are in the process of trying to figure out how to move as much LNG out of US gas fields and to the rest of the world as we possibly can. And that's actually not necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to have negative consequences for domestic supply because US natural gas prices trade way below LNG prices in the rest of the world. There's an arbitrage there, hence why they're trying to export a bunch of it to close the arbitrage. One way the arbitrage closes, global prices drop. Another way it closes, and both of these will be true, domestic prices rise. So in the process of trying to scale up AI and and by the way, a bunch of other large grid loads are coming online at the same time, whether it's EVs, domestic manufacturing that was invested in during the Biden era, just general increases in demand after we spent 20 years coasting on improvements in efficiency. Electricity demand is going up. Supply is getting more expensive at the margin. And that means one thing, you're going to pay more on your electricity bill. The IRA saw all this coming and said, okay, great. We'll subsidize a bunch of renewables. Those will come online pretty quickly and great. Trump administration is trying to keep as many of those off the grid as they possibly can. And so I think energy politics are not going to be about gas prices in a year. They're going to be about electricity prices. And it's going to be really easy to say this is about AI and about Trump. And that wouldn't strictly be true, but we don't have to say that.
Yeah, no, like as the resident AI whisperer, I endorse this approach. You should absolutely rake all of them over the coals and salt the earth in their wake. It's fine. It's fine. We'll figure it out later.
I can't wait to see these guys try to talk to normal people about, well, car inflation's only 2.8%. And so you can't just look at food like that.
We've talked about Texas and we've lurched into energy politics there. Let's do a quick rundown on the other competitive Senate races to close out tonight, because there are sort of some scene setting to talk about there. So my list of the 6 that are plausibly competitive, like there's any universe a Democrat wins them, are North Carolina, Maine, Ohio, Iowa, Texas, and Florida. And that's my order for the likelihood a Democrat wins. My view is that Roy Cooper is basically a lock to win North Carolina. Maine, I think, is likely to be a Democrat, not as locked as North Carolina, but a good shape there. And then we get down into the lower likelihood parts. So Ohio, Iowa, Texas, and Florida. So where are we sitting on these, gentlemen?
I'm really surprised you have Iowa that low. Like, Joni Ernst failed.
I just don't trust the Midwest, man.
Fair.
Yeah, I'd probably bump Iowa up to third over Ohio. I would also add Alaska to that list.
Yeah, fair.
Which is
both fair.
I mean, Alaska is both about the same PVI as the Texas Florida tier, and also is impossible to pull, and also is just really idiosyncratic for lots of other fairly obvious reasons.
I'm wearing a flannel shirt today, so I feel confident in talking about Maine, and I feel worse than last time we had this conversation because
Really?
Because Janet Mills is entering the race.
Yeah, talk about that, Maine. I just called Ed Maine.
Yeah, you did. I was going to let it go. Janet Mills seems fine. And that's a problem. Because, like, I don't necessarily know if, like, in the race between 2 candidates who code as generally fine, she's going to beat the incumbent who has been there forever. But she's probably going to have a good chunk of money. I have not actually heard a lot about the Plattner campaign from folks in the Maine orbit.
I think he said he'd raised $5 million, right?
He's raised a lot of money, but like no one I know in that area who are generally more on the liberal side, liberal to left, no one is talking about him, right? Like
He's an internet darling, and sometimes you can translate that to in-state enthusiasm, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah, and maybe it's very early, but Janet Mills should be considered the presumptive if she is going to get in, even though there are a lot of reasons why that's a bad thing.
Gerontocracy, baby.
So, Ed, say again, Janet Mills is the governor?
Yes.
Okay.
She's termed out.
And we had discussed her on a prior episode when we talked about Plattner.
Yes, but it seemed a lot less likely at the time that she was going to get in.
Yeah.
At least from the folks that I know. And like, now it seems firmed up that she's probably going to enter the race. Honestly, like, if I had to fantasy book this, I think at this point I would be pulling the Jared Golden lever, and I assure you that brings me no joy to say, because he has name recognition from, he's already an elected. I think his seat is winnable if you really care about it. I think you need more daylight between Collins and whoever you run. Mills is not going to provide that.
I guess the alternative argument, and I don't know if I earnestly believe this, I'm just being a debate bro, is that if you have two candidates that look very similar, moderate, older women who both have long careers in Maine politics, what then are people deciding on? Is incumbency more important, or is getting mad at the general state of affairs more important? And in a 2018 style national environment, or 2010 style national environment, however you want to frame it, maybe making the candidates indistinguishable but for is the way to go. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I necessarily believe that, but I think it's a case worth hearing.
I mean, it's an absolutely like reasonable thing to say. And like, this is entirely vibes, obviously, because the polling is crap this early and all that. But also like, Maine's just weird. Like the way that they like, sometimes I think they vote by dartboard, right? It's never made that much sense to me watching like anything come out of that state. I was shocked when Jared Golden won.
And Maine is kind of like mini Alaska with polling too, right?
Kind of. I mean, it's not as bad because like most of the people are in one place. Most of Maine is empty. Most of Alaska is empty. But I feel like Maine is at least a little more connected to, civilization. There are roads, there are highways. You can go on the same road from Maine to Florida, as you well know. But I don't know. I feel less great about it just because I'm not necessarily sure that like there's the same kind of reaction to, hey, Trump is bad, as you will see in other parts of the country, because that always seems a lot more muted here when it comes to Republicans, because the Republicans here are kind of not as... Are you really going to credibly be tarring Susan Collins with the Donald Trump brush? Because she's just going to smile at you and she's just going to talk like this the entire time.
She's got the party next to her name. If people are mad enough, it doesn't matter, right? That's the thing. I mean, I'm not saying they will be.
She survived George Bush. And like, yes, this is a worse thing. On many, many levels. We are going to eventually have to recalibrate on George Bush. But like, it's just yes, there's an R next to her name, but then you actually see her talk, and Massachusetts elected Charlie Baker as governor, right? It's just Republicans don't code the same way here, except in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, they're nuts.
Although again, that has been a thing nationally too, where that state of exception for local party Republicans, local state and local city Republicans, has become less salient, right? Like you can't win a mayor's election in Boston or a Massachusetts governor's election as a Republican at this point. That wasn't true not that long ago, right? The same is true for Maryland, right? Where the local moderate Republican had a shot at the governor's mansion. And that's just not true in this national environment that's so
Baker was elected in 2018.
Right. Okay. I'm just saying that like Maine may be behind the national trend on this, but I am unconvinced that any state's politics can avoid this trend of just extreme ideological
polarization,
party-based polarization.
I agree with you, but like the thing that makes Maine weird to me on this is that somehow like they have gotten this far this way, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay that way, but I have bad vibes. My vibes are bad. I don't necessarily like that doesn't mean that Collins is going to win.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a lot closer, I think, than you think.
Here's what I'll say on Maine. Number one, I think I've said this on this program before, but the last time Maine elected a Democrat to the Senate was 1988. It's been a while. So this, even though this is a state that has moved blue over recent years, this shouldn't be thought of as a freebie. It's
no.
I mean, it hasn't though. I mean, Trump is, we brought up George W. Bush, but Trump is more popular than George W. Bush was. If you're looking at the electoral outcomes, I mean, Trump won the congressional district and won that delegate in Maine both times.
So that's where Maine is weird. Bruce Poliquin was a weird candidate. There's not that many people up there, and it's real big. Like again, I know you are all from states that are of large, etc., except for Proctor. Because Proctor's not in a state.
I mean, I'm from the other Washington, but yeah,
that's true. But like Poliquin's just he is an old Maine guy. They love those. and Jared Golden is to some extent old Maine guy, but not old yet. And like it's just it makes it very strange to talk about it in like a nationalized context, because I agree with George when he says that it's infecting everything. But also I'm not sure everyone in Maine has electricity.
I get the sense that at least kind of like blue sky liberals are sort of hardening against Janet Mills for two reasons. Number one, she's associated with the Democratic establishment, and the blue sky liberals hate the Democratic establishment.
They attack it like they're a parrot in a mirror.
And number two, she's old. The old thing, like it's not like Susan Collins is a spring chicken either. Those are both real demerits, but I just kind of want to remind people that back in February, Janet Mills was the governor in the governor's meeting here in D.C. with Donald Trump, standing up and screaming, "See you in court" at him when he threatened Maine's federal funding over as a means to get the states to enforce some anti-trans policies. So like there are reasons you should like Janet Mills, and there are reasons that you should think of her as being a fighter against Trump.
And I do, to be clear.
Even if she's probably Chuck Schumer's pick, and even if you think Chuck Schumer is not a fighter against Trump, don't impute that quality to Janet Mills.
That's absolutely true.
I am in favor of whoever wins that seat.
Yeah.
Because they're going to vote the right way. She's not going to be, if Janet Mills gets in or if Graham Plattner gets in, they're going to vote with the Dems.
Right.
It's...
I think one thing where we will differentiate ourselves from other commentators in our general part of the political spectrum is this podcast firmly believes that primary voters know what they're doing and fight it as much as you want in the primary. But as soon as the primary is over, we're moving on. We have better things to do. And if you're going to complain about the primary voters being wrong or being stupid or being influenced by whoever or whatever, it sounds like you just didn't work hard enough or you did something wrong. And okay, I mean, sorry, that sucks. You have the primary electorate you have, and move on. Like that's it. So this applies to presidentials, to senatorial, to whatever. That's it. Fight as much as you want in the primary, but with one exception, three of the four on this podcast are not connected to Maine. So we're certainly not voting in that primary. I'm not sure what Ed's residency situation is.
I live in Massachusetts.
Creative or otherwise.
I'm still focused on the New York general, because I'm gonna get Sadiq Khan in there and see if being New York mayor can make him insane.
You're gonna bring in a transfer player. That's what you're gonna do.
I've had to call Stephen Lynch twice this month.
I'm a Florida State fan. Transfer portal is what we do,
But we're not Maine people. Maine people figured out I have a prior about which of those candidates I like more, but Look, if you're telling me the bad option is someone that was screaming at the president about seeing him in court, hey, I'm happy.
Over trans rights. Again,
hell yeah, brother. Right. Exactly.
Over trans rights. Yeah. Get his ass, girl.
Yes. Yes.
I will say that we should be congratulated on our level of fairness. I'm pretty sure most people here, if not all of us, have said nice things about both candidates in Illinois' 9th district.
This week?
Did you see the videos?
I did see the videos. I'm trying to think of what I would have said nice about the other candidate.
They were both there. Both Biss.
They were both there. Oh,
they were both there. Yeah, no, they were
awesome. Hell yeah!
I'm pretty sure she got tossed, and I thought he got CS gassed.
He got tear gassed. Was the report? I don't know if he got. I don't know if he got video of getting tear gassed. He probably should have gotten some video of getting tear gassed.
Turning congressional primaries into a race to see who can get a picture with an American flag and tear gas that's a good thing. That is a very good thing, and good to both of those candidates for participating. We're talking about Illinois 9?
9.
Yes.
Yes. Illinois 9, the Kat Abu primary race. And they showed up to the ICE facility that's being used to process a lot of the detainees from the Chicagoland area. And there was tear gas. There was other forms of violence from Homeland Security officials, etc. Abu got chucked, really got chucked by some chud,
hip tossed.
Like thrown her. Yeah. Yes.
These are real tough guys.
Kat Abu is not a physically large person.
No.
This Bortak agent, fully kitted out, picked her up and threw her, and it looked like it hurt. So good for you, Kat Abu.
Yeah. Yep. And
get some ice on that bruise.
Yep. And to her opponent, what was his name?
Daniel Biss. He's the mayor of Evanston.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And good to you, Daniel Biss, for being there as well. Both of you. Yeah. Well done.
We like to see
tear gas more. We want this.
We like to see politicians. Lowtax, are you listening to this? We like to see politicians respond to incentives.
Yes.
Jail. No trial. Straight to jail. Poor Dabo.
It's amazing. It fills me with glee.
In Dabo's defense, he did say that if the kids ever started getting paid, he would quit coaching, and he appears to have done exactly that.
He's quiet quitting as Clemson head coach.
That's right. And I appreciated y'all beating NC State the other day.
Yeah,
I fucking hate NC State.
I don't hate him. I just, who are you again? That entire institution is just like, oh, we had a class together freshman year, maybe. Anyhow, I gotta go return some videotapes.
Oh no, their fans are rancid. Like they'll throw garbage and they'll like piss in bottles and throw them at players and shit. It's like
real Philadelphia energy.
Yeah, it is the Philadelphia of North Carolina.
Raleigh in general, to make it about me here, Raleigh in general is really into getting mad at Charlotte because we quote unquote stole their MLS team. They didn't have an NFL franchise for a billionaire to buy, and we did. And so that meant we had a billionaire to do an MLS expansion team. And so they are still so mad about that. And they'll come down for games between their USL team and our USL team and be all like ramped up and like so mad about everything. And all the Charlotte Independence fans, that's the USL team here, the lower tier soccer, basically professional soccer, but lower tier. And they'll just be like, why are you mad? I don't get it. We're just a family out for some soccer.
How large is
the Ultras are?
How large is Raleigh? It's only a few 100,000 people.
No, I think it's more like 900,000 now. Oh, sorry, 467,000. But the triangle is 1.5.
Yeah, the triangle is 1.5.
Research Triangle is 2.4. Raleigh itself is 450. So, yeah, it's a big, diffused urban area.
Yeah, but it's not really a cohesive urban area because you have Raleigh with the NC State fans, you have Durham with you all, the Fighting Mannies, you have Chapel Hill with the Fighting Jordan Hudsons.
Fighting, hey, can I have some money for the concession stand?
Yeah.
I'd just like to state that I don't know what any of these words are or where any of these places are.
You know who Jordan Hudson is. You're from Boston.
have no idea who that is.
Oh, that's Bill Belichick's girlfriend.
You don't know where Raleigh, North Carolina is?
That was a joke.
Okay. It's called a wagon wheel? What's wrong with you?
But why would I know anything about Bill Belichick? The only thing I know is a hoodie is involved, and I'm glad he's gone.
I'm thoroughly enjoying Belichick, and we get Clemson and Belichick this week. That's gonna be so awesome.
It's actually a week after next, I think.
Is it a week after next? God, my week.
I think it's October 4th or October 6th.
I was fully anticipating this week to be Miami Hate Week, but apparently we have to go and fight. We have to go and play the Fighting Zimas of Charlottesville.
That's the University of Virginia for those who don't speak Lowtax.
Why did they get tagged with Zima?
Bowie's going to block me.
All right. That is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. We are hopefully going to have the show notes corrected. We've gotten some feedback around that, and I thought that y'all could see them, but apparently you can't. We've changed podcasting platforms, so there should be show notes available with this episode. If there aren't, please yell at me. Only at me this time, not Ed, not Proctor. Never yell at Lowtax. He's just going to ignore you.
That's right.
Yell at me if there are no show notes this week, because there really should be.
Also, go update your bookmarks. Get off of the old RSS feed. Thank you.
It'll still be up forever, but subscribe to us on Podbean if you haven't done that. I'll post on Blue Sky about this as well. We'll also do a show notes link as well. It's fine if you don't, but whatever. Do it. Last thing, rate and review us on the podcast app of your choice. If you have a chance to do that, it helps people find the show. We sure like having our egos fluffed, and also like occasionally reading hate mail. So, that's it for Normal Men. From Charlotte, I'm George.
From the District of Columbia, I'm Proctor.
From glorious Palm Beach County, 2 miles up the road from Mr. Trump's Jupiter Club, I am Lowtax Speedrun Enjoyer.
And looking at our Apple podcast with 66 5-star reviews, I'm Ed from Boston.
Stay normal, y'all.